Hey guys, my name is Gloria and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do a review of a recent read of mine, which was This Hostel Life by Melatu Uche Okorie. This is a set of 3 short stories by Okorie and an essay by Liam Thornton from the UCD School of Law on the Irish legal system and direct provision. So these stories were all written, at least thought of, whenever Melatu Uche Okorie was in direct provision in Ireland, and they're about some of the difficulties that she faced in there and about the racism that is still, unfortunately, alive and well in Ireland right now. I'm no expert on direct provision, but I know that it does need to go. Direct provision was brought in the 90s. It relates to asylum seekers coming to Ireland and the need for having somewhere that they could stay while they were being processed to see whether they could come into Ireland as asylum seekers or not. It was supposed to be a maximum of 6 months, but there are people who've lived their entire lives there, 20 years since the 90s, in direct provision centres around Ireland. And direct provision centres mean that generally you can't get a job, you can't cook your own food, you're given €21 a week, I think, so you can't save up any money, and all of the choices about your life are made by other people and often change. And a theme in some of the stories in this, are waiting. There's a lot of queuing up and waiting for toiletries, queuing up and waiting for food, just a lot of waiting. So I am just going to read a couple of extracts, just very short extracts from, I'll actually read the back first. So this Hostel Life tells the stories of migrant women in a hidden Ireland. Queuing for basic supplies in an Irish direct provision hostel, a group of women squabble and mistrust each other, learning what they can of the world from conversations about reality television and Shakespeare. In another story, a student shares her work with a class, only to be critiqued about her own lived experience, and a mother of young twins living in Nigeria is at risk of losing her newborns to ancient superstitious beliefs. An essay by Liam Thornton, UCD School of Law, is also included, explaining the Irish legal position in relation to asylum seekers and direct provision. So I'm just going to read a couple of short extracts from Liam Thornton's essay. The system of direct provision is a system of enforced poverty, the core purpose of which is to make Ireland a deeply unattractive location for asylum seekers to have their protection claim determined. That's basically, yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of countries around the world who don't want a lot of immigration coming to their country try and make it as unappealing as possible and as difficult as possible. Over 5,000 men, women and children remain in direct provision centres today. Convicted of no crime, the system of enforced dependency and institutionalisation reminds me of the crueler and less understanding Ireland of the borstal, the Magdalen laundry, the mother and baby home, the mental institution. Using the law and appeals of human rights will not fundamentally change the degrading nature of direct provision. Only by engaging with the political sphere, by telling our elected representatives that direct provision is simply not acceptable, can we hope to see the system abolished. So there's been a lot of talk in the last few years. Honestly, I didn't know about direct provision until a couple of years ago. You never hear about it on TV, you never hear about it in any TV shows or on the RTE news, or I'd never heard the term direct provision before, but they've been going the entirety of my life. And 2 years ago, I think it was, there was supposed to be asylum seekers staying in a hotel in my hometown, and that hotel was burned down by some people in the town who didn't want the asylum seekers coming there. So I grew up believing that my little hometown was, if there was racism there, I didn't see any racism, but again, I didn't see any non-white people either. But if there was racism in my small town, I believe that it was the harmless kind, which I now know does not exist. But yeah, seeing my tiny little town's name in the national news on Twitter, because they burned down a hotel so that black people couldn't stay there, or brown people, or whoever they thought were coming. That was heartbreaking. It wasn't, there was a lot of outcry in the town then. A lot of people came together to condemn the act, but not everyone. There were enough that were for the act, which is just, it's bizarre to me to feel that coming from my own small town. So racism is definitely still in Ireland today, and the very idea that Irish people can be angry about immigration is just ludicrous to me. It's the height of hypocrisy. We are a nation of immigrants going to every corner of the world, and it just blows my mind. Half the people from the town that I'm from, half of my own siblings are scattered across the world, and it's just bizarre to think that they would be angry about people coming to their town. And I'm a civil servant. Some of my colleagues weren't born in Ireland, and they receive a lot of racism from the Irish people that come to us asking for advice, because I distinctly remember a colleague of mine being berated, saying that she shouldn't be allowed to work there, and then in the same breath this person told us that their daughter was living in another country and working there, and we were supposed to help them, and it's just, they didn't see any irony in that at all. So apparently we can go wherever we want to go, but nobody can come here, which is ridiculous. But I digress. This Hostel Life by Melatu Uche Okorie. I was lucky enough to be volunteering at the Irish Writers Centre when she had the book launch for this, so I did get to hear her speak about this and read part of one of her stories. The first story in this is the title, This Hostel Life, and it follows a Congolese woman as she's going about the daily routine of someone in direct provision, just waiting around, waiting with other people, waiting to get toiletries and whatnot so that she can live for the rest of the month on those. And it's interesting because it's told in a mixture of Nigerian pidgin English and American slang, and she speaks in a Kinsala accent, and this is just to highlight the many different people that are living together in close quarters in these direct provision centres, as well as the Irish culture that they come into contact with, and the way that they're reconstructing language so that they can better communicate with each other. And I'm very interested in language. I'm very interested in the melding of different languages and different dialects and whatnot. I thought that was really interesting. One of the most interesting to me though was the second story, which is called Under the Awning. So this is, in the author's note, she says that she brought the story of this girl dealing with everyday racism in Ireland to a writing group, and she got harshly critiqued on it. And while she was taking down the critiques that a writing group were giving her, she thought of writing the story framed with this type of critique. So Under the Awning is about a woman who brings the story of this girl and everyday racism to a writing group and the type of critiques that she got. And as a fellow writer myself, I totally felt that one, because just so many contradictory statements, so many things that don't really make sense for your story, and having to deal with those and having to try and work other people's ideas into your own story. Writing groups can be fantastic, they can be incredibly inspirational and helpful, but a lot of them are just setbacks and they're very disheartening. The phrase that came to mind whenever I was reading her story was, a camel is a horse made by a committee, which is like, if you have too many people on the one thing, it loses all sense, and it's not that one thing you had anymore. The story is not dark for me at all, but apparently when Okorie originally brought it to a writing group, she was told that it was too dark and harsh. Considering the racism that I've seen myself in Ireland, it absolutely is not. It was rather tame, I think. But again, that's what you get when you go to writing groups. Who knows what you're going to get. And the last story of the collection is called The Egg Brook, and this is based on a story that she heard from her mother when she was young. There was a practice in Nigeria until the early 1900s of the superstitious killing of twins because they thought it was a harbinger of evil. They thought it was a bad sign. And in this story, she tells the story of a young woman who's pregnant, desperate to have a son for her husband so that she doesn't bring shame on the family. And she discovers that she's pregnant with twins, and it's the shame that she feels, the shame she gets from her village and her family around her, and the heartbreak of seeing her twins taken away from her. So that one is harsh. It's about misogyny, it's about superstition, and it's about the reality of losing a child. And it's quite heartbreaking. Quite close to the bone. So this Hostel Life, this short story collection, is indicative of the racism in Ireland, but it's also indicative of all of the different nationalities we have here, of all of the different people that are currently living in direct provision centres and not being able to live a full life, and what we're missing out by pushing them to the side and not allowing them to fully come into our society and teach us about their own cultures as we have ours. It's also a testament to Okorie's storytelling as well. I think she has a master's now from Trinity College Dublin, which is impressive in itself. But this is short, it's powerful, and the essay at the end is very informative as well. And I would highly recommend This Hostel Life by Melatu Uche Okorie. So pick this one up if you can. Thank you for watching my video today. I really appreciate the likes and the subscribers I've had so far. Let me know if you've read this one or if you plan on getting it in the future. If you like what I'm doing here, you can like and subscribe down below, and I shall see you in the next video.